Coming up on Unpacked.
You feel like if I don't have that, then I am not, I'm not pretty enough.
As a 6-year-old, it's a completely different perspective.
Essentially, I went to school one day and I had hair, and the next day I went to school with no hair.
You don't choose alopecia. You don't choose for your immune system to not function at its optimum.
Sometimes I used to even cover up with a swimming cap at the beach just because I was afraid of showing my naked head.
Living with alopecia, we have 2 guests today that are here to share their stories. Let's unpack. It was at the age of 6 that Paula Currie's mom noticed clumps of hair missing from her daughter's head whilst giving her a bath. What started as minor hair loss for the Stellenbosch-based student became a lifelong struggle. At the age of 20, Boksburg-born actress Altovise started noticing a thinning of her hair. 6 years later, the hair loss became more aggressive and led to her getting medical attention. These are their stories. Let's unpack. Welcome to the show, Altovise. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
And joining us via VideoCon, we have Paula. Welcome, Paula.
Hi, thank you for having me.
All right, I'm going to start with you, Altovise. Explain to us what your understanding of alopecia is.
So my understanding of alopecia is essentially your immune system attacking itself. That results in you not being able to grow hair or certain parts, or where certain parts of your body can't make hair, I almost say produce hair, where your hair just falls out or ceases to grow.
Yes. And I mean, my understanding is that there are different types of alopecia.
Yes.
And which type do you have?
I've got alopecia areata. So I still grow hair on other parts of my body. But when it comes to the top half, mainly my face, I struggle to grow hair on my scalp.
Yes.
Eyebrows, no, there's nothing there. And I'm still losing eyelashes.
Yes. And on your side, Paula, which type of alopecia do you have?
So I was also diagnosed with alopecia areata. But over the years, I would say that I've had a combination of the different alopecias, as the parts of my body where my hair grows is constantly changing and that it's falling out and coming back. And so I would say I'd have a combination.
So Paula, what happened that you then got diagnosed? What was the build-up to that diagnosis?
I got diagnosed when I was quite young. So I was 6 years old. And it all started, I was at home one day and I was in the bath and my mom noticed some parts of my hair that had been falling out on my head. And at first she had no idea what it was and we didn't really know. And it took a while. I went to quite a few doctors before I eventually got diagnosed with alopecia.
And what was it that they suspected, the doctors, that your mom was taking you to?
At first, they were giving me ointments and things to treat eczema and things like that. And eventually I went to a specialist and they diagnosed it with alopecia. And the reason for it is still unknown. Some doctors say that it's a trauma that causes it. So it could be a trauma that was caused by stress or something internally in your body. But today we couldn't really pinpoint it. Some doctors also suspect that it could have been a shampoo that I was using at the time, as I was using a specific lice shampoo. And it came out after I was diagnosed that there were some toxic ingredients in that lice shampoo and it's no longer being sold on the shelves. So some of the doctors that I saw suspect that lice shampoo could have been the trauma that was linked to me getting alopecia.
When they explained to you, because you were 6 years old at the time, what was your understanding and what did the doctor explain to you being a child?
I don't think I fully understood what they were explaining to me because my brother and sister were both normal and nothing was happening to them. And this was all happening to me. So it was all a bit confusing. But essentially, I went to school one day and I had hair. And the next day I went to school with no hair, and it was a big adjustment for me as a child, especially going to school and interacting with friends and them also wondering and asking questions that I didn't have answers to. So it was a big adjustment.
Let's talk about the build-up to your diagnosis. What was it that you started experiencing, and then talked us through you being diagnosed?
I feel like there's some similarities between Paula and I, because I started losing hair about 10 years ago, so at 20, in my 20s. And I would also sometimes wake up and see hair on my pillow. But then I'm just like, no, I slept dry. I didn't wear a doek. I'm wearing the wrong doek thing. They say things like, don't wear a ghost to bed. Sometimes you'll swirl your hair to bed. And now you start changing. You're like, I'm only going to wear silk or satin doek. But still, when I take it off, I'm still shedding hair. And then I started shedding my eyebrows. And then, lashes eventually came. But then you start ruling out certain things where stop braiding your hair, or you're braiding your hair too tight, or you're using the wrong oil, start using essential oils, or stop using product. So I also switched from shampoos and conditioners that had sulfate to sulfate-free shampoo, sulfate-free conditioner. Not using heat on your hair, only not manipulating your hair, but, it was futile.
So you started experiencing that, trying different things. When did it get so serious that now you're like, I actually need to consult?
Around 2016, like from 2015 building up, because I only got diagnosed in 2018, where I couldn't even tie my hair anymore because the patches were so severe. So while I could still cover it up, I'm just like, no, man, I'm just not being gentle with my hair. I'm actually stressed about something, up until it got to a point where, you visit the GP and then they change your hormones. They give you certain supplements because you might be stressed. There might be a deficiency. And only when I went to the dermatologist in 2018, after they checked my scalp, were they like, you've actually got alopecia.
Just so I can understand, did the doctor explain to you what it is he looks for? Is it that the roots are gone, so it's just like flesh, if that makes sense? Or is it that the roots are damaged in a certain way? Like, what specifically does the doctor look for to say it is this, and not just hair falling out because of stress, or maybe as a side effect of medication or anything else?
So on the right side of my head, essentially my follicles are asleep. They're in such a deep sleep where now we have to try things where it be topical treatment like minoxidil or cortisone injections to try and wake up the follicle so that it can grow. So when I do grow out my hair, you'll see that I still have, there's bits of hair coming out, but they're in such a deep sleep that they can't actually grow. And at the back of my head, there's nothing there. And in the middle of my head, it's still a deep sleep type of follicle. So you try different types of treatments on different spots to try and achieve a plausible result.
Yes. What was your understanding? I mean, you were a bit older, but what was your understanding of what alopecia was at the time? I only knew about alopecia because of stumbling upon some documentary where they spoke about it, but I kind of feel like generally people don't know what it is.
I can say I was aware of what alopecia is because there's someone in our family that has alopecia universalis. But when you compare yourself to someone, I'm like, but mine isn't like that, so surely I don't have it. And only after the diagnosis, going back and reading and actually educating yourself about it. And also your diagnosis is your diagnosis. I can't compare myself to yours. And understanding what my type of alopecia is, what causes my stresses, everything that works together that causes this. I think only then I had a better handle on it.
Yes. But you knew when the doctor said, okay, it's alopecia, that it had to do, because most people just understand it as a hair loss or not having hair issue.
And then you ask, what's the severity of it? If I come back in a year, what's the change? So knowing already that you have alopecia areata, there's a part of you that maybe hopes that there's a chance that I can bounce back from this. Alopecia universalis, after certain treatments, there's just no hope for me, essentially.
Yes. Paula, you were in school at the time, and I mean, I recall being in school and there were so many rules to do with hair and how your hair needs to be tied up. What was, that reality like for you?
I was very fortunate with my school. They looked out for me, and I started wearing a bandana, and our school uniform was navy, so I had a bandana made specifically to fit my head, and it was navy, and I would wear that. And at first, when my hair started thinning, before it all fell out, I was quite embarrassed about it, and normally the rules were that you weren't allowed to wear a hat inside, but they let me wear my hat inside. There were a few incidents where I was told, where other learners would tell me I must take my hat off because we're inside, and I would just get a bit scared. But I was very lucky with my situation that everyone was quite accepting of me.
I mean, at what point do you decide, because you know that your hair's now in patches, at what point did you decide that actually we should possibly just shave it all off? Or was that not even an option for you?
That actually did happen with me. So when I was quite young and when I started going for treatment with my alopecia, I would have all these ointments that I would have to put on my head. And eventually I just had like strings of hair left, and it would get in the way of the ointment and all the treatments. So eventually it was so thin that we just decided we're just gonna shave the strands off. So that was also like, I remember that day so clearly, and I was only 6 years old, but I remember the day shaving the last strands of my hair off. Yeah.
Talk us through that day, because we know that hair represents so much to so many people, but maybe as a 6-year-old, it's a completely different perspective.
Yeah, I remember we went to one of our friends' houses down the road, and they helped my mom shave the hair off. But yeah, there was literally hardly anything left when we shaved that off. And I remember that was the next day when I started wearing a bandana to school. So I went from trying to hide the last strands of hair underneath a hat to the next day going to school bald with a bandana on. So that was quite a big step for me, in the journey.
Were you resistant to your hair being shaved, or were you part of the decision?
I would say I was part of the decision, but then again, I would say I also I didn't fully understand what was going on. And for me, it sort of felt like a temporary thing. It didn't feel like something that was going to be permanent at the time. So I thought it wasn't going to last forever. My hair was going to grow back. But yeah, in my case, that didn't happen.
Can you relate to what she's saying about feeling like it's a temporary thing? So even if the doctor's telling you what it is and you did your reason, your reading, and your research, that a part of you felt like, it will grow back, let me just cut it all off.
Definitely. And I think it's also like the people that we're surrounded with, in our Black and brown communities, where they're like, it's a fresh start type of thing. Yes. If you want your hair to grow, you cut all your hair off so it can grow back evenly and stronger. Yes. So I believe that too. And at this stage, I cut my hair every 2 to 3 days. Every 3 days, I cut my hair off, because then at that stage, you can start seeing my patches. Yes. But I also believe the same thing that Paula believed, that once I go bald and cut everything off, fresh, like the roots will awaken. There'll be a fresh start for me.
And it doesn't work that way?
Zero. Yes. Nothing.
So what does it actually do from what the doctors explain? It is ineffective.
Yeah, it's ineffective. For me, though, it's ineffective. Nothing happens. My hair grows back the same way. There's new patches, old patches growing almost, and then it recedes again. So for me, it's just, this is what it is.
Now, talk to me about what your relationship with hair was like when you had to deal with this.
Ooh, I can never say that I praised hair, even though my community does. Yes. And it's not a bad thing, because culturally there's different things that worship feels like the wrong word to use. But in this instance, where praise is given, your hair is your glory, your hair is your crown, a woman without hair is what? So you keep hearing those things within your community, and then suddenly you feel like, if I don't have that, then I am not, I'm not pretty enough, or will I be looked at differently? So I think I wrestled with that for a bit, with, is this what makes me in terms of identity? It opens up so many portals. But I think I've got a very strong family and supportive family, and thank goodness for that. The other aunt also, that's like, actually, this is not what it is. We can get wigs. We can get wigs made. There's hair turbans. There's so many ways to accessorize and feel pretty without hair. So for me, it was a bit tough because of the beauty standards in my community, until you just don't care anymore, because you don't have a choice.
Yeah. And I think, we've had a conversation on this show, with women who have gone through chemotherapy, and how the one completely was like, it is what it is. And the other one that was more devastating than losing a breast. So I find it so interesting. What is your relationship now, Paula, with hair and what it represents? I mean, you've grown up having alopecia, but at this point in time, do you still feel like hair is the crown that you wear on your head and all those things?
So I feel that hair is a big part of someone's appearance. And for me, I'm so used to not having hair. I've tried wigs in the past when I was younger, and I've also tried them when I was a bit older. And to be honest, when I try a wig on and I have the hair touching my face and everything, it gives me a bit of the thrills, it's almost like it's not supposed to be there. And I don't know, I've just gotten so used to having this clean, bald head, and that's sort of what I've gotten used to. But everyone in my family, my sister, my brother, they all have thick hair. My sister, she has beautiful long hair. And I sometimes look at her and I'm like, wow, like I would have had hair like that, or my hair used to be like that. But then it's something that I've gotten over, and it's taken a long time for me to build my confidence without my hair. And I also agree with what Altovise said, that how hair shouldn't be praised as something as in the like beauty standards, but also women can be beautiful without having hair.
And I know we've spoken a lot about hair on head. When it now comes to, because a woman could just choose to be bald without it meaning anything to people that might have questions. When it comes to now eyelashes and eyebrows and areas where now you look different, what was that like for you? And did you feel like, okay, this is getting now bad?
It did. It felt very, very uncomfortable, especially working in film and TV.
Yes.
Because you'll get on sets and I'm like, every week I've got a different eyebrow shape. Every week, one eyebrow's here, one eyebrow's here. And I'm just like, as a human being, our eyebrows don't move that much, you know?
Yes.
And then you start having talks, and now it feels like you're fighting with the hair and makeup department because realistically, this is not what I want to look like. Realistically, also, I don't like what you're doing, you know? So it feels like you're defying, or you are defiant, rather. But it got tough for me because of the work that I do. But I also felt uncomfortable. You know, I'm just like, before I go out, I'm just like, as long as I've got eyebrows, I'm happy. At this stage, I could give my eyelashes if I can keep my eyebrows. Because then what are the characteristics of your face? You know, like, how would you know that I'm angry? How would you know that I'm excited? How would you know that I'm happy? You know, like it's a form of expression, I feel, especially because I use my face to communicate. So for me, I think that's something that I also wrestled with how would you know how I feel if I didn't use my words, if I didn't have my eyebrows?
I actually did not think of that until you mentioned that now, because I was trying to think about the fact that, especially in the beauty space, how the lashes are such a big deal that, you know, we always have extensions on and all that thing. So I was thinking, I think I'd be so attached to the lashes. Now you're mentioning the eyebrows and you say, how would people know? I'm like, actually, the eyebrows, like outside of people wanting eyebrows on fleek, like the eyebrows are so expressive and they communicate so much.
100%.
My goodness. Paula, from your side, what was that like for you in terms of, you know, the eyebrows and the communication?
So, I also lost my eyebrows and my eyelashes. And then I think it was only when I sort of became older and started experimenting with makeup and things like that, when I sort of realized, okay, maybe I should draw on eyebrows, or maybe I should wear a bit of thicker eyeliner. And then I got my eyebrows microbladed when I was 18. And the difference that made, I think I just thought to myself, why didn't I do that sooner? Because it just changed the whole shape of my face. And it also let me express my facial expressions. So that did make a big difference. And I have had stages. So I go through stages where I'll have a full set of eyelashes, maybe for about 3 months or so. And then they'll suddenly slowly just start to fall out again. And then maybe in 6 months' time, they'll grow back again. So I go through stages where my eyebrows and my eyelashes come and go.
Did you ever consider something permanent like a tattoo?
Yeah, well, I have microblading done, so that is kind of similar to a tattoo. It's a bit different, but I have had that done in the past. So that's what I currently have now.
What about your side with tattoos?
I've also got microbladed eyebrows, Paula. I also
Yeah.
had my eyebrows microbladed.
Yeah.
I think I had my last session a year or two ago. But then I also found out from that beautician rather, that when you have alopecia, sometimes your body rejects the ink. So let's say you go get your eyebrows microbladed and it lasts for 3 years. Ours might last for a year and a half because our bodies are still rejecting what's happening. So I also got my eyebrows microbladed. The same with the eyelashes as Paula. There are months where I shed so many eyelashes and I'm just like, okay, this is the end for me. And then there are months where just 1 or 2 eyelashes, but it's fuller, you know? So when it comes to a tattoo, I think I prefer microblading because technology has changed so much where it can look like single, hair strokes as opposed to something more solid. But for us, it's semi-permanent. So maybe in a few years' time, if your scarring isn't too bad, you just top it up again.
Maybe explain to me how it is that you can get microblading for your eyelashes.
Eyelashes, I don't think you can get.
So you can't get it for your eyelashes.
But you can get like a permanent, like your eyeliners.
I got you.
Yes, there is that. But the latest technology that I saw that's pretty expensive is something that Megan Good did, where she got hair implanted in her eyebrow. So I've got hair here and there, but I've got microblading over it. And then Megan Good actually had her eyebrows tattooed, so it was like a solid bar. But now the new thing is actually implanting hair. So it looks like yours, essentially. I can't afford that yet, but we'll get there.
I had no idea that Megan Good even needed that.
Yeah, from overplucking. So hers isn't essentially from alopecia, but working in the industry from such a young age, you overplucked and then it just stopped growing. Her eyebrows stopped growing back.
Yes. Paula, talk to me about your thoughts just in terms of beauty and the discussion around hair and how you reflect on that for yourself.
I think that having alopecia has definitely made me rethink my confidence. And I think, it has been a struggle for me with regards to beauty standards, not looking like my friends or not looking like other girls. But I've always worn a bandana, and that's always been like my like comfort blanket, that I've always worn a bandana. But I'm trying to start just embracing the boldness and just going with it. But I suppose it's a journey and I'll see where it can take me.
And for you, beauty and how you reflect on beauty in relation to what you are experiencing.
The media has such a big influence on what we deem beautiful. You've got the likes of trendsetters that'll tell you what's hot this season, what's not. And I think if you subject yourself to that, you're always going to feel like you don't match up in any capacity, be it when it comes to hair, complexion, body size, it's always shifting. So I agree with Paula in a sense of it has given me a different sense of confidence because this is all I have to work with. This is the only thing I have. But I do explore wigs here and there because sometimes, you want to razzle dazzle. And if I'm not in headscarves like Paula, I am wearing dooks. And I think that for me is the head wrap thing is my thing. But it really gets to a stage where okay, until there is movement or certain development, this is all I have. So what you do with where you are. And I think you just have to work it.
You mentioned earlier how it affected you at work, just in terms of, having to deal with makeup and hair department, for example. Did it affect you to a point where you might have felt like you missed out on opportunities because of not having hair or your hair being as frail and as challenged as what it is?
To a certain extent, yes, because before I knew what was happening, I was so embarrassed, And you go and confide in the head of hair and makeup and you're like, this is the situation. If you can we work together to try and not help me feel as exposed as I already do? And when you feel like you don't have an ally in that instance, where I'm just like, okay, it's not just you. Now I'm going to be seen on national TV. You are opening up a door where people are going to ridicule me and I can't reply, or rather I don't want to reply to every single person because as someone that's probably my superior, I thought you would understand, you know? And then when it comes to the wig thing, you'll have a character description where I'm just like, I can't find a wig that's the texture that they want.
Yes.
You know, if they want a curly afro, what is a curly afro until you maybe show me a picture?
Yes.
And then you go through your plethora of wigs and you're just like, I don't have that type of texture.
Yes.
And you go and they're like, this is not what we're looking for. And I'm like, okay, number one, it's not my hair.
Yes.
Number two, what do you want me to do? You know, so I think I've resorted to auditioning bold. You'll make up the character.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably the appropriate response, because then it's almost like you're saying, this is the canvas you have to work with. We can add or change up or do whatever, but this is what you have to
100%.
work with. And has that worked for you?
It has, because I put it as a disclaimer. It's, hi, please audition. Now you audition and you get through. But even before I walk into the audition room, you must know that I have alopecia.
Yes.
And if you can't, or you stress me about it, it's all right.
Yes,
it's all right. Let's not do it then.
Paula, is there anything just in terms of your life where the hair affects your career and working environment?
Well, I'm in the creative industry. I do graphic design. So I feel it doesn't really affect my work or my abilities to do my work. So in that case, it hasn't affected me. But I would say in the past, just with my lifestyle, in terms of that, I would say I've always been one that's scared of water, because I always wear my bandana, and then now when it comes to water, do I just go without my bandana? Sometimes I used to even cover up with a swimming cap at the beach, just because I was afraid of showing my naked head. But so in terms of lifestyle, I'd say just swimming and that sort of thing has sort of been problematic for me.
What do you hope South Africans get to know and find out about alopecia?
Firstly, it's not something that you choose. You don't choose alopecia. You don't choose for your immune system to not function at its optimum, but also to be more sensitive. And it's even related to something like, just because you've gained weight, you might be pregnant and you don't know that I might be dealing, with fibroids or something. Stop assuming.
Yes.
Stop imposing. Stop questioning until I've told you, or if you're asking from a place of love and care, don't assume and don't be mean, I think. Because the moment someone retaliates, then it becomes bigger than what it's actually supposed to be.
Yes.
So I also like to see it's representation. I know we speak of representation everywhere in film and TV, but in real life, representation in its truest form.
Which I would assume representation could mean you showing up in a role as a character that has alopecia. And then that way we're not trying to work around it.
Yeah. Or if you ask me to grow my hair out and you see what the final result is, you work with it, not try and manipulate it beyond or sell something that really isn't true. Because the fact that we can talk to Paula, who's had it at such a young age, having to deal, sometimes children can be very mean.
Yes.
But she stuck through it. She fought through that.
Yes.
So imagine another young Paula watching this saying, I'm not alone, And that's what I mean when I say representation in its truest form, and understanding, and not from a place of ignorance, because then I can't help you or educate you.
Yeah. So Paula, from your side, are you going to reach a point where you think you actually are just tired of trying treatments and trying different things, where you're going to say, this is what it is?
Yeah, so I would say, actually, I think I have sort of gotten to that point. I've tried many treatments over the years, from having laser done on my head, different ointments, different forms of therapy. I've done reflexology, and I've sort of have come to the stage where I have accepted it for what it is. And I am open to trying new things if they were to surface. But I sort of have gotten to that point where I've accepted my alopecia for what it is.
And on your side, have you reached the point yet, or you still are going to continue trying different treatments?
I don't think I've reached that point yet. I think I'll probably only reach that point where I've exhausted anything topical. If the last resort is anything invasive, then I know for me that's my limit. Yes. But I recently found a new doctor that yields pretty great results. I've emailed them. I'm getting ready for my consultation, and hopefully that'll be the change, because I don't think I'm looking for long hair. I just like to see if I can grow a full head of hair.
Yeah, and I think it's great that you're mentioning that, because some might assume that you want this rich, big, long hair, but actually you just want a full head of hair.
Yes.
And something that you can work with.
100%.
Yeah. I mean, I think that between the two of you, you've explained it so well. How would you say, and I'll start with you, Paula, to a person who might think, but this is so superficial to be like, it's not that deep. What would you say to that person? Because whenever we speak of any type of condition, obviously there are terminal illnesses and terminal conditions. This might seem like it's not that deep. Why is it that deep for you?
I think it's because it's something that you struggle with internally and personally, as well as it affecting your appearance. So for me, I have struggled with it in internally and within myself, and just accepting myself for who I am. So I think, I don't think someone should just brush it off as not meaning a lot or not sort of being of importance, because it is, and it does affect someone more than you think.
Why is it that deep for you?
It's that deep because it's not just you in it. When I listen to Paula's story, and I'm just like, this is a whole family affair. I can say the same thing for me, especially when you want to understand, but you can't. So when I first found the hair on my pillow, I'm calling my mother, I'm like, explain to me why this is happening. And my mother also was like, what's happening? Thinking that my mother is asking aunties, across the road, hi, I see you growing rosemary. And my mother's boiling rosemary on the stove, mixing it with olive oil because you heard from another auntie, that this could help you. And then your father coming back with, here's an article that I read. So I'm just like, it's not just you in this instance. It feels like an entire family affair, because the moment I don't feel good about myself, and then it's like, okay, now everybody else, needs to work it. It's being uncomfortable at a party with a wig on and having my brother taking off his sporty to give it to me when I take my wig off, and it's a community of some sort. I can't take my wig off in front of just anybody. I can't talk about it in front of just anybody, depending the head wraps that I have. My auntie's having head scarves on standby just in case I come over. So it really is a family and friend affair that knows what is happening. So it is that deep.
Paula, final words of anything that you'd like viewers to know about your journey with alopecia.
I think it's been a long journey, but I think I'm finally starting to accept myself for who I am with my alopecia, and I'm not letting it define me. And if there is a message that I can send out to anyone watching this, even if it's just one person who's had a similar experience with alopecia, it's that they're not alone and they shouldn't be afraid. And I've hidden the fact that I've had alopecia. I've hidden under my bandana for many years. And I think when you accept yourself for who you are, and I'm slowly starting to do that, the story changes and the journey changes, and you start seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. And I think that's just the big thing for me.
Yeah.
For you, final words?
Final words is for everybody to just open themselves up. We're in 2021. Cultural norms, cultural standards when it comes to certain things also need to adapt. Again, it's not a choice. And also just being defiant, I think. Any chance I get, I'll talk about it. Before you ask, if you look at me a certain way, I'm going to tell you about it. So I try and position myself in that way where if I can impart just this piece of knowledge for you to go out there and probably share it, I've probably done my part, So I would also just like beauty standards to change, especially internally when it comes to our particular cultures and how they view beauty, because I think if that can change, it has a ripple effect then where everything else essentially will change.
Ladies, thank you so much. Paula, thank you so much for joining us. Altovise, thank you so much for coming to have this conversation.
Thank you.
Hashtag Unpacked with Relebogile. Thank you so much for joining in on the conversation. Do let us know what it is you think about alopecia. Have you heard of it before? And did you actually have an understanding of what it means and what it's all about? And yes, the relationship with hair is a big one. We didn't have gentlemen with us today, but I'm sure those of you that are watching, if you are going through this, have your own views and would like to share, go ahead and do so. The details are on your screen. Thank you for joining us. Have a good night. Next time on Unpacked.
And Tataka was absent forever. My uncle was very active.
How old were you when he started recruiting you into?
15. Currie, but I checked it randomly. On a little order. We used to terrorize Mahwao. our targets nelimaho siyabangena belungu because vele nje bathatha izinto zabukhokho bethu.
Thank you so much for watching Unpacked with Relebogile Mabotja. Make sure you subscribe to my channel where you can get to watch more episodes. But more importantly, you can be part of our online community. Comment down below, share with us who you'd like to see on the show, what story you'd like us to discuss. We love engaging with you. Keep it coming and don't forget to subscribe.